I think over the years, I hated knitting. It doesn't start with sketching with me. I think it starts with just one idea that interests me. And with every collection, I tend to obsess with a story or with a concept. And I try to shape everything around this concept. Most of the time, it comes from a dark story and ends up in a colorful collection. My family is full of knitters, crocheters. My mom sews everything. My wedding dress, my prom dress is like she's a very handy person. And I told her like, okay, can you teach me how to knit? And she said like, you cannot do that.
Welcome to Vienna Design Hour. I'm Stefan Göschel, and in this podcast I talk with creative minds from various disciplines about their work and perspectives on design. In today's episode I'm joined by Neva Özcü, a self-taught fashion designer from Turkey. Since 2019, Neva has been running her own knitwear label, YET FYI, here in Vienna. We explore how granny-style cardigans can inspire avant-garde fashion and how dystopian themes can be transformed into playful designs. By the end of our conversation, you might want to watch the movie Equilibrium with Christian Bale. Stay tuned to find out why. I would like to hear where your brand name came from and what does it mean to you?
Yes, I worked in corporate life more than 10 years. And it was, FYI was used very often there. And then when I started doing this, I was going for slow fashion, like I was against fast fashion and so on. And then I was like, okay, is it ready yet? Like, not yet, not yet, not yet. I was using this word a lot. And then combining, okay, not yet represents like, okay, it's not ready. It's not made yet, but it's going to be, there's a process behind it. So it's going to take time. So not yet was the first two words that I came up with as a brand name. And then I wanted to add FYI to bring a little bit attitude towards like from my corporate background, because FYI was used also like at the end of the mails, like by the way, this happened, and and FYI for your information, like just like that. So you don't expect anything afterwards. So I thought, okay, this is a funny name, and that's why I named it like that.
Perfect story. I thought my interpretation was also a bit that it's kind of avant-garde, because it's something you don't know yet. The yet is a very, very interesting part of it. But it makes perfect sense, as you said, and it has got the same attitude, I think.
Yes, definitely. And I thought, okay, I didn't want to give my name to the brand. I never thought of it. I was always calling it not yet, not yet, not yet. Like in the beginning, even if like it wasn't a brand yet, I was calling, okay, I was doing it this for not yet and so on. And then my father asked like, why didn't you give your own name to that? And then I said, I never thought about this. And now like when I look back to it, like Neva Özcü, it's like I'm living in Vienna. My name is not a European name. My surname is definitely not a European surname. So people cannot pronounce that. But I never want to change it. Not yet FYI is funny and a little bit attitude. And also I think it serves the purpose. Okay, it's not ready yet. Like it's not yet done.
That's very nice. I'd like to begin at the beginning. Usually I don't really ask for the biography, but you have a special like story behind where you come from, which you told me. Would you mind telling it again?
Starting from where?
From your engineering career, probably.
Okay. I studied engineering, electronics engineering in university. And then, this is going to be a long story. I worked as a software engineer, like the first couple of years of my career. And I enjoyed it a lot, but I needed something more social because I'm a talkative person and so on, and I have like a good social skills, and I wanted to change my career into something else where I can use my engineering background and like also use my social skills. Things changed. I worked for a couple of more years in Istanbul, and then, you know, like Turkey went through some serious problems over the years, and I was in a phase where I was thinking like, I don't want to live here anymore, and I wanted to move somewhere else, but Vienna or Austria, it wasn't in my list. But my boyfriend was living here, so I was searching for other opportunities close to my home, like somewhere in Europe. And somehow, like by luck, I could move to Vienna. I found a job here. I continued my job like as a consultant. And I was working for a recycling company here. It's an Austrian company. And after I moved here, I started, before I moved here, I was waiting for my visa to be issued from the Austrian embassy. And I had, I think, 5 months that I could do basically anything, because I quit my job. I was just waiting to move here. And this period I spent with my grandparents in the Black Sea coast, and this is where we have a farm, and like my family was also there. I went there, and I just wanted to learn something new. I didn't know what it was. Just to spend time. And my family is full of knitters, crocheters. Like my mom sews everything. Like my wedding dress, my prom dress is like she's a very handy person. And I told her like, okay, can you teach me how to knit? And she said like, you cannot do that. Like, because I've tried it so many times, like when I was a little kid, like 5 years old, 6 years old, and I hated it so much. I said like, no, this is like a madness. Like there's no patience. I don't have any patience for it. And it doesn't make any sense. Like it takes too much time, la la. And then I'm 27, 26 years old. I moved, before I moved to Vienna, like, okay, I told to my mom, okay, again, teach me how to knit. And she's like, okay, you do this. It's a little bit complicated. And I said, okay, I will try to make something like beanie or whatever. And then I had a beanie there, and I had some yarn and like needles. I did whatever she told to me. And then the beanie was like 3 times bigger than the one she showed me. And then I'm like, because I have no idea, like how can this happen? Like I did what you told to me, like because she always eyeballs stuff. She's like, okay, start with 60 stitches and so on. And then I'm like, okay, there's something wrong, like because I didn't do anything wrong, but there's something behind this that I have to dig in. So this is how it all started.
What does your mother say now to your work?
She cannot believe.
Okay.
I cannot, like, she really cannot believe. And I also, like, I think over the years, I hated knitting and I hated knitwear. Not hated, but I didn't have the patience to do that by myself. But over the years, I think looking to my mom or hearing some stuff, I already knew some basic stuff, which I didn't turn into practical skills. And she's like, where does it all come from? Because I'm doing this very technically, different than her. Like everything is like super calculated. Like there's so much planning behind it, like so much engineering behind it. And then she's just like, she doesn't do that. She always eyeballs, and she finds the accurate calculations and accurate proportions, but we don't have the same approach, definitely. So it's very difficult for her to understand what I do.
I think it's common sometimes. Maybe children soak up what they experience in their childhood, and they're not interested because they are so exposed to it. And sometimes it breaks through when they're older. I think this is a common thing.
It's really interesting because I never made patterns in my life, for example. And after I started Not Yet FYI, and it became a brand, and now I produce like collections twice a year. I have to produce patterns. I have to be able to repeat whatever I did for a sample to turn into a product for different body types and so on. So like I have to really put lots of measurement into it and thought. I've never done patterns in my life, and I realized, okay, I really need some calculation. I started doing it without any technical knowledge or without any education or anything. And then I realized, okay, like I can do that. Like, of course, probably I'm not as fast as a professional person who is a pattern maker, who works as a pattern maker, but I can find my way out of it. And I had to create my own process to turn patterns into knitting, because they are two different worlds, two different techniques. And I didn't have any education on it. I didn't have any books which explains like how to do this, how to turn 2D stuff to 3D stuff. And I had to create my own process over the years to be able to do what I want to do. And that is still ongoing. Like I think I'm improving every collection, like some bits and parts of it, but I started.
Do you find it limiting that you have to find patterns, or is it something you embrace?
Actually, not limiting, but freeing, like, because I don't have to think about it twice. Like I have a base with a pattern, I can change it, but I have, even if it's wrong or even there's a mistake on it, I can pinpoint like a bug fix where the mistake is, and then I can correct whatever I done, recalculate it, and turn it into a correct product at the end of the day. And
I'm not an expert in this, so maybe it's a naive question, but can you also quote patterns in a new pattern? So can you self-reference designs, or do you do it?
What does it mean? I didn't understand.
It means that you like develop a pattern, and as I said, you can really go into detail with it, and you can take a detail and develop it further in another design. So is there some references between the collections?
Definitely. Like that's why I think it's really a freeing process to have patterns, because you can always go back. Let's say, okay, the sleeves I made 2 years ago, I want to use the sleeves and use other neckline, or like combine another like another part of another design, another pattern, and make a new pattern out of them. So it's like puzzle pieces. So of course you cannot take it all the time, always like as it is. You need to adjust them to each other, like to meet the requirements. But definitely it's doable, and I do this all the time.
Because I think it's interesting after some years when you see, oh, this piece goes from here, and it's kind of building a tree.
It's like sampling, actually.
Yeah,
like
right, absolutely. It's
even if it's not your pattern, but you see something and that inspires you. You say, okay, like I can develop this, and I can like adjust this into this design, and like recalculate it, everything completely, and then use it for your own. Like this is quite doable, I think.
So do you sample funky knitwear from the 70s?
I did that.
Really? Can you explain it?
From the 70s, you mean like literally?
It was just a joke, but I can imagine that you have some maybe family patterns or anything you can sample.
My mom, as I said before, like she's very good with stitching and so on, like, and she's also self-taught. She's a collector of these magazines, like with lots of stitching patterns. I think they're called like sewing patterns,
handbooks and manuals.
You know, like Burda.
I don't know it, but I know that they existed.
So these are magazines like even before I was born, like she started collecting them and so on. So we had so many patterns in our home. And before I moved here, I was like, okay, like while I was still trying to understand the technicality behind knitting and knitwear, I was digging into her magazines and finding the patterns. Like these are the patterns, like knitwear design, not knitwear, like pattern makers made, and they sold this as a magazine. So I was like taking some patterns from them, trying to imitate the shape with handmade, with hand knitting. And this was one of the processes that helped me to understand, okay, in order to match this paper cut pattern, I have to do this, and I have to calculate it like that. Like there's stitches and rows, and like the needle size affects the yarn that you're using, affects it. So I started experimenting on it, and that helped me to deep dive and understand, have a more understanding in how it works, basically.
Do I understand correctly that knitting was per se your interest and your way into fashion, and it was never a question to do anything else, like fabric-wise or from technique or anything? So it was just, this was the beginning, and from there it developed everything.
Yes, I didn't have any idea like, okay, I want to build a fashion brand. I just wanted to learn something new in this free time that I had before moving here, and that was by chance knitting. I don't know why, how. Probably I was with my family, and like, okay, they have the know-how, they could teach me to do so. That was a big not dark, but bright hole. And I just like started doing that. But yes, definitely.
And it happened in a very short period, right? So from the start to really getting interesting and intense, we speak of 2 years?
Not even 2 years. Like in a couple of months, I was I was producing samples from different yarn types, trying different textures on them and see how they function. In a couple of months, I was able to imitate 2D patterns with 3D knitting techniques by hand. And because it was like an addiction, like nothing was enough. Like I was asking people, my aunt, my mom, like my grandma, like, and their answers didn't solve my thirst for understanding it more. And then I had to learn it by myself, and I was Googling everything, like reading old knitting books, which is like so difficult to understand because there's so much terminology going behind it, and I had no idea about these. Like, so there was lots of Googling. So it was quite short because I had to know how it worked on my own, and I was alone. So
okay, very interesting.
Like nothing was enough.
And I guess what they produced was more traditional, I guess. Or was there someone in your family doing something avant-garde?
Actually, after I started, like, I was asking lots of stuff to my mom, like, does it look okay? Do you like the color combinations? Just to have another idea, like, from her. And then, like, also during this process, I was using other tools, like digital tools, that she never exposed to because we are coming from very different generations, of course, and she didn't have YouTube or like digital books. She had nothing. Like she just had his mom and her sisters to learn this from. So I was getting lots of information from Google, from YouTube, like from super old knitting books or pattern books that I could find on internet. And I was bringing this information back to her. So she was also learning, like this created a exchange of knowledge in between us. Also, she's like, if you do this, you can have more elasticity kind of thing. Like the things that I couldn't find in the books, she was teaching me. So it started like vibe in between us. So I think what she makes for us and for herself also changed, like because she like. Now she has a wider world. Like
you opened her perspective and her approach. That's very nice. What I also like about it, that's why I'm asking an unusual amount of technical questions, is that the technique is also very, for me, it's conceptual, and it's also, you can interpret. So what I mean by it is that per se, you don't I didn't earlier when I was young, associate knitwear with attitude. But you kind of talk about construction patterns and attitude and being bold, I think it's also interesting to take this technique and provoke different interpretations. And what I also like is that for me, it defies stereotypes. So it's not per se for women, it's not per se for men when I look at it. How do you see it?
100%. Like when it started and when I started like teach myself how does it work, like the different techniques, like hand knitting, machine knitting and everything, I had to go through lots of old books, as I said before, and the aesthetics of these, like still even today, like the aesthetics of the knitting, like anything related to knitting, it looks so traditional and nothing new, nothing modern. And it bothered me a little bit because I wouldn't buy that. I wouldn't pay anything for that magazine, but I needed to buy that, or I needed to buy some digital books in order to teach myself. But the pictures or the stylings were so old-fashioned and I didn't like this. And I was like, why are they still doing this? It's a very old technique, but nothing is developed here. Like there's no aesthetics, there's no different aesthetics behind it and so on. So that was my idea. Okay, it's because like this technique can bring you anything. Like it's so deep, it's so wide, it's so rich. But why only have this like old style cardigans or old style sweaters and like everything, it looks the same, the granny style, which is okay, but there's nothing else. So that was my idea, like okay, let's bring fun into this, like let's make it funny or playful, colorful, young, avant-garde, like play with it, like because there's too much room to play.
Did you find any role models that you could reference to, or was the lack of role models pushing you?
It's the lack of role models. Mm-hmm. I didn't have any aesthetical references to target for myself for Not Yet FYI. I had to come up with what I have.
Do you remember the moment? I guess there was this kind of a try it out period when you started. Mm-hmm. And do you remember the exact moment or the period when you thought, oh, I'm seeing something here that could last for longer than just
definitely.
Yeah, what was it?
This was exactly the moment I was spending time with my family in this farm. And as I said, I knit this beanie, and this is like 3 times bigger than the original one. And then I was Googling, like in the middle of the night, I'm in bed, like my laptop is with me, and I'm just like Googling like how to meet the measurements, or like I didn't even know where to start, like what to Google, like is it the yarn, is it the needle, both, like what? And then I found like a knitting pattern, an old knitting pattern page, and on top it was saying like the gauge is this. And this is a terminology which is used for knitwear. I think also for fabrics you have that. This means like, okay, 10 to 10 centimeters equals this much stitches and this much rows. This gives you a reference to start calculating what you have, your yarn, your with your needle size, whatever you knit, you can always recalculate and find your own way to make a garment. And I'm like, what is gauge? Like I didn't know what even that means. And then that moment was the exact moment I realized, okay, I have to calculate stuff. I shouldn't eyeball everything, like there's a calculation behind it, but what to calculate? Everything. Like this is the moment where I fell deep into the idea of finding how to do this.
Mm-hmm. So the curiosity, also a very technical one maybe, like triggered a a conceptual one.
Definitely, because I'm a very analytical person. And my, like, also personality wise, I'm super analytical. And if I have, if there's an issue, and if there's some, for example, there's something's broken, it needs to be fixed. Like, if it's something that I can fix it, I would spend time to fix it. If not, then okay, there's nothing to do. But I thought, okay, this is something that I could do, and because there was a problem to fix, and I didn't know what the cause was. So that was the reason, I think.
What's also interesting is that, as you say, you're very analytical, and we talk about patterns and measuring and calculating. But I think, for me, it doesn't look like it. That's also interesting. It sounds like a very technical approach and process. But in the end, you have got pieces like, I think this is the FI pants. Or FI, you use it for these garments. That's interesting for me because and I also have names like melt top and melt dress, cloud skirt, and stuff like Around the Water was a collection. But it's got nothing to do with engineering, analytical, and stuff like that. So this is a transformation during the process, or the process doesn't show in the product, and I find this very fascinating.
With every collection, I have lots of stories behind. And with every collection, I tend to obsess with a story or with a concept, and I try to shape everything around this concept. So the Around the Water, for example, like it comes from where I come from, where my family is coming from. So I wanted to have that and use all the technical capacity I have to create the collection. And this was, I think, 2 years ago. Like, but every collection starts like that. It starts with a story that I'm obsessed with, and then I have to create a world around it. And this is how it works. What I'm inspired, maybe it's not analytical. Like I'm inspired of lots of things. Like it could be a movie, it could be a story, it could be a book, it could be a music, it could be a building. But how I work is super analytical. Like at the end of the day, like and then this is the end product. So, I don't know if it explained your question.
Yes, a little bit, but maybe we can go a little bit deeper, because I wanted to ask you how you get inspired, and then what sparks your interest enough to build a collection around it. I found this very fascinating in the fashion world, that you have a collection. And I mean, in my profession, it's maybe the same, but there's coming something from clients, and we build a world around it. But you have to come up with it for yourself, and you have to stick with it for a couple of months. So you have to decide to say, okay, I will spend the next couple of months with this topic. So how do you decide, and how does the process start?
I don't decide, actually. Like, I don't know, like I don't wake up a day and then like, okay, I need a story that inspires me. Just an example, I watched a movie, and then it inspired me so much. Like the costume design was amazing. Like the setup was amazing. The photography, the filmography was amazing. And then I came back. I started listening to the soundtrack album of this, and then listening to the soundtrack, it was like a super dark drone album. And then I started like thinking, okay, like to me it sounds like a world like where humans are in a different planet. Like it was super dystopic. And then I started imagining, like writing a story like, okay, there's this planet, and this planet is a survival planet, and humans are not only human anymore. Like they became part machines, part humans, like humanoids. And so I don't know, the combination of the movie and the soundtrack, the drone soundtrack, like really drew me into creating a wardrobe for the characters living in this planet, for example. So one example is this, or another example could be I could see a building which happened before, and this building was in Tokyo. The stairs was it was so interesting because I've never seen stairs like that, like with this material, and like it was super geometrical. And I thought, okay, like I want to do something like that, but I don't know how to build this. I have to know how to build this, and like what I can do with it. Like it could be a pocket, and then it starts from there, like from a very little detail, like as a pocket, and then like this detail and that building, like from this form, I could create not only a pocket, but also a neckline, like a weird, like a one-sided neckline, which is maybe not super functional, but I want to make it functional and interesting at the same time. So I think this is like the quest of finding the balance of interesting form and the functionality. So that was my driving force to create a collection around it. Like.
And how does it actually start then when you have the vision built in your head? Do you then do sketches and tryouts? Or is it a different process every time?
I try to postpone sketching as much as I could. Because I think if I start sketching very early without having any idea of what I'm thinking actually, then I could destroy my own imagination. I don't know if it sounds
It sounds
good.
perfectly.
Also, I don't feel comfortable sketching stuff like in the beginning. So it doesn't start with sketching with me. I think it starts with just one idea that interests me. As I said, this could be a movie, this could be a book, a character, or a time where I remember, I don't know, early 90s or late 90s, kind of like some time that I lived, that I experienced. I think about it, and I think about it a lot. Like I imagine what would it be if it is something like that kind of thing. And then I research a lot visuals for that time of period, for example, or for that movie, or for that costume designer that inspired me, and so on. And then looking to lots of images, and I have to also feed myself with music that goes with it. So I try to create an environment on my daily life to live in this imagination.
You're like a method actor.
Exactly, kind of. Like I try to build an environment for myself. Like I listen to that kind of music that goes well with the story. I try to wear clothes like that, close to that, like or colors. So I try to surround myself with parameters that could feed me more and make me feel more about it. And then when I have enough confidence of putting this on a piece of paper or as a sketch, then I start just drawing silhouettes without any specific details, like no colors or nothing. And then afterwards the details follow up with time, but I postpone it as much as I can do, like sketching.
So that's also very analytical, that you're playing it through in your head a lot, and then you memorize it, and then something comes out, and maybe there's something on the table without noticing. Because your subconscious brings it forth, and then you analyze it again, and maybe.
Because as I said, like it becomes an obsession somehow. Like this topic is something that I am like thinking over and over and over again. Or like this albums, I listen to this over and over and over again. It's even in my dreams somehow. Like I see, okay, you can match this and that, or combine this, and so like it's so much that sometimes I see it in my dreams. Like it's not all the time, but you know, like when you expose yourself to something a lot, like then you tend to see it.
Is this your favorite part of the process, or is there something that you like even more? Because I guess you enjoy also digging in deep into a topic or an idea.
It's very fun, but also a little bit painful, because during this period before I start sketching, like I know I want to do something from it, but I don't know what it is. And ambiguity is something that I'm not coping well with. Ambiguity, I don't know how to not knowing what I want is something that I cannot cope well with. So it's really fun because I enjoy, like I cannot stop like thinking about it, but it's also a bit painful because I don't know what I will do with all this ideas. There's too much ideas, so I have to digest. I have to spend some time to digest it, understand myself, like what I want to do with it, what kind of forms I want to create, what kind of colors I will put into this. What will be the soundtrack of this collection? Kind of like I have to really digest this, and this digestion is a little bit painful and fun at the same time.
Do you have people that you ask for their opinion, or with whom you exchange during the process, or do you always deal with yourself most of the time?
I keep it to myself most of the time, but if you see me on daily basis, like my husband sees me on daily basis, so probably he knows I'm after something, because it's recurring and it's very obvious. I think it should be super obvious from outside, but I keep it to myself until I feel comfortable about this. Because sometimes, like, you can also get lost during the process, and then you lost your interest. You cannot digest anything, like you cannot digest your thoughts or eliminate your thoughts into designs. This could also happen. So I try to keep it to myself until I feel confident talking about this, until I know what exactly I want to do.
I have a lot of respect for this process when you're mostly coming up with ideas yourself, and you, as you say, digest and generate ideas and then decide when to stop. It's really something very difficult, I think, because I tend to talk to people a lot, and through the exchange I can think a little bit better, I think, for myself. But of course it works the other way around as well, and it's for me it's always that I think it's not easy to find a way when to stop. Maybe deadline helps as well. Deadlines.
That's really helpful.
So I wanted to also ask you about, I found a quote on Instagram that a good look is a perfect mix of an emotion and idea. I think we analyzed this a lot, but can you and dig it a little bit deeper, because you say what your influences are, the music, atmosphere, and inspiration. But how do you translate it then into your pieces, your work? When do you feel that? How do you get the emotion in it? Because at one point, again, I don't want to repeat myself too often, but again, it's a very technical process, maybe, because you have to calculate how it works and even figure out how it works. And the emotion can get lost during the process. So how do you make sure that the emotion is inside?
Actually, the analytical part comes quite after. Like, let me think how it works. I think I imagine myself in the story, whatever the story is. I imagine myself as an individual in this story, and that's why I think I surround myself like with the helping parameters, and then it makes me feel sometimes like passive aggressive or happy, cheerful, strong, peaceful, like there's different emotions. And with every collection, like as an individual, when I imagine myself in these stories, and I I think I'm not really sure. I think I put myself into these emotions, backing up with the surrounding parameters like music and so on, and then I pick the colors. Is it happy colors? Is it which color would represent this emotion? Which form? Like sometimes I have lots of like super bold shoulders and so on. How would I represent this emotion as a form? It could be with the fiber I use. Like it could be super soft, or it could be very like strong fibers. The textures I put into the collections also gives out hints of emotion. So I don't know if the other person would see what I felt, but I know how it would make me feel if I would use this color or use this form into this shape, for example. I don't know if it explained your question.
Very much so. I thought that this is like a key. So I understand that you imagine yourself in the surrounding, and if it fits the mood, then you're happy with the outcome, and if it's not, you adjust it or you change it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Do you ever have someone else in mind in this scenario? Do you have a customer or people in mind that you think or that inspire maybe something?
Yes, because for example, for the new collection that I'm currently preparing, I imagined another person. This is not a person that it's not me, and I cannot be this person, but I can empathize somehow. So there's this character, and she I don't want to give so much details about it right now, but she comes from a completely different background and so on. So like there's this character, and this character is already a grown-up when I was a little kid. Like she lives in the new modern era, .com era, and she's like working in an environment that she hates and so on. So like, and she's surrounded with lots of dinosaur men, and she cannot express herself in between these men because she has to play the game in this office. And so on. So like, I cannot relate with her, but I think I know that I've seen a person like that. I know a person like that. There's a person like that in my family or something. I don't know. So I can see this person, and I can see how she lives, and that is a wardrobe like that she might have that I will create for her. So it's not always me.
It's a reaction to her situation.
It's my view on her. Like it's how she looks in my eyes. Like how I perceive her as a person.
You have a piece that's called Armor West, and it reminds me. Is it like an armor that you're creating for this person right now, or is it just a reflection? So. Do you provoke something with it, or is it just what you digest that comes out?
This was from the Planet X collection, and this was the humanoid collection. Like it's a different planet, it's a different time. Like it's super futuristic, and there were different characters in this collection. And these characters, like, they had different powers, like, not power, it's not a power anymore because it's a part of your body. So this was for a different character, which I imagined to be, they were the protectors kind of this planet, and they just have no emotions, they don't talk, they just communicate. And they grown into this shape, so it's not even a cloth for them. Like it's their body, and like nothing could go across like their bodies and so on. So this was the idea for that character. I
didn't want to mix it up, but I thought when you told the story of a woman that is not happy in her situation, I thought you can give her something to protect her from the surroundings, or you can just take that as an inspiration and turn it into a clothing. So this was my idea. I didn't want to mix it up with the armor vest. I just remembered the name and I thought, oh, you could give this person an armor so that she's more protected from her environment.
Exactly.
This could also be the idea.
Yes. But there are different stories, and she doesn't have an armor like the passive aggressive girl, like for the new collection, for example. She doesn't have an armor. But she's quite passive-aggressive towards the environment because she cannot. She's afraid to express herself like actively, and she doesn't want to be exposed to you're being emotional. Like we don't want feelings here, kind of thing. So that's the only way she can express herself, like passive-aggressively, with her clothing or with her style, with her makeup, with the music she listens to, not verbally, but like everything surrounds her is like an expression of like, I don't like to be here. Like like I'm not like playing with your rules. Like I'm gonna put my own details into this. Like even if it's a small detail, it's coming from me, and like take it or leave it, like kind of thing.
We talked a lot about inspiration, and I always like to ask if you've got some book recommendation or media, film series, anything that was kind of a very dear inspiration to you as a designer in the design context. Was there something that also triggered something?
Yes. My collections look super colorful and everything. Because, but most of the time, like I'm digging into lots of dystopian movies, and the dystopian movies, like a part of like what was it, Bradford Wives, or anyways, dystopian movies have a very dark aesthetic, super like fascistic architecture and so on. I am so inspired by those movies, but because I always want to make it playful and colorful and twisted in a fun way, I tend to bring bright colors into this. So most of the time it comes from a dark story and ends up in a colorful collection with avant-garde forms. So there is this movie that I tend to go back over and over and over again. It's Equilibrium. There is like 2 colors in this movie. I don't know, maybe you watched it.
No, I don't know.
It's fuck, I don't remember his name. Like he's super famous, but I cannot remember his name. It's a dystopian movie. Like there's the government and the emotions are banned, so you need to take shots that is served from the government, and like the architecture, the buildings in this movie is insane, and somehow like it doesn't reflect to my collections, but like it gives me so much emotions like to watch this movie, and I think it feeds me so much into different stories, like to different collections. That is one of the movies that I could
I think it's super interesting because for somebody who doesn't know you well, I think nobody would have guessed it.
Maybe.
Right?
Maybe.
But I can totally understand, because to have something as an inspiration and turn it into something completely else, I think is something I can relate to very much.
Because I think the movie is so obvious. Like everything is so well aesthetically explained there. But every time I watch that, it puts me in a different emotion. And from that, like I think it gives me a drive to turn it into something else, like having this emotion, using this emotion, turn it into something else and make it playful. And I don't know, I tend to go back to it. Also, there's this book I didn't bring it from home because it was already in my library. Like, it's a knitwear designer, Lerke Bagger. She hand knits everything, and I didn't know her for a long time. And then I found her Instagram, I think, a couple of years ago, and the way she explains her career and how she started, and what's people's take on what she does, and like how she was discouraged to take this as a career, I was like mesmerized. We have so different styles, like both of us, like completely different styles, but she inspires me so much, and like because I think she's a very strong woman, and she's stuck with it despite of all the discouragements she has surrounding. So, and she had this book 2 years or 3 years ago, and I had to buy it, and like really it's stricken. So I don't know if
Makes sense.
I pronounced it
yeah,
well.
Absolutely. Makes sense. Perfect. I wanted to ask you, because we talked, where you come from is a very personal story, I think. But you have to deal as a brand, let's call it like this, with the fashion world. And it's a big question, it's a stupid question maybe, but how do you see yourself? Do you see any peers? You don't have to name them, but do you see international, like-minded designers that you admire, or that you can maybe exchange with, or that you get inspired with? Or do you see yourself as something that's not really comparable to something else? Where do you see yourself in the fashion industry?
Not only in fashion industry, because I think I of course I see peers, or I have like role models, or I know people that I feel close to, having different backgrounds and fall into this fashion world, and like they are self-taught and so on. But also from other industries, I had very inspiring stories, because fashion industry is a little bit exclusive, I think, where you study your background, your socio-economical level. These parameters affect other people a lot. Despite of what you produce, what's your aesthetics, people buy other stuff before what you do, before they buy what you do. And I mean buying, like they accept you as a person, and I thought, okay, maybe I need an education, like maybe I need to go to fashion school, but like I don't feel going back to school anymore. I already do this, like I already started doing this by myself. Like I taught myself lots of technical skills and so on, and I didn't want to but spend 4 years minimum 4 years in a fashion school just to have an etiquette. I was always second guessing this in the beginning. Like, did I do wrong? Like, should I go to a school and so on? But why do I go to a school? Like, I already have my setup. And I also have listened to a podcast recently. There's this musician. He never went to school. He never finished university. He doesn't have any degree. He's not coming from a wealthy background and so on, but he's a German composer and he's one of the top. Like he's composing lots of super well-known movie soundtracks and so on. And then there are like, he was talking about like, they were always asking me which school I went to. I said like, no. Which music lessons you were taught, like you got? And he said like, I only got one piano lesson in my life, and he plays everything like on his own. So I think it ends in you, like if you have the motivation, and if you of course have some belief in you, I think then it's possible to kind of realize yourself in this environment. But it's not easy. Definitely, it's not easy.
And what are the most important windows to the world for you, like social media or fashion shows? Where do you get people to know you and to learn more about you?
Social media, definitely social media, yes. And my website. Like I'm not super active on social media, but this is where I stick to. Like I have to.
I think it's also still the most relevant way, probably, if you don't have a donor or somebody who puts lots of money for traditional channels behind your brand, right?
Definitely. Also, like it was. I'm a millennial, so it's not as easy for me to understand social media as a Gen Z person. But I have to, like, at the end of the day, like, I started, like, everything started with Facebook for us, and now Facebook is dead. And Instagram is still where I stick to, but I try to not to look at Instagram so much. So I use it for work, to announce what we do and for the shows or for the new collection. But I tend to keep myself out of it, like, because there's too much going on, and somehow it overwhelms me a little bit to look into what's going on, what other people does, and so on. So I tend to feed myself from different channels.
That's what many people say I meet and are in the creative industries, because it's getting overwhelming.
Very overwhelming.
But still we have to deal with it because we have to show our own work.
Definitely. But also, like, I don't feel super comfortable, I have to say. I don't feel super comfortable about this because I use this platform, but this platform I don't spend time on. So to me, it feels like, okay, it's gonna turn into something else. Like, everything has an expiration date, that's for sure. But I don't feel comfortable. So, like, if this is a platform that I don't like to spend time on, then why do I have to do this? Like there? So it doesn't add up.
If you could choose and dream of a perfect way to show your work to the world, what would it be?
I don't know. Probably it would be a physical world. Like, it wouldn't be a digital world. Like, it would be a physical.
Would it be a store? Probably
not a store. Like, I don't like to. It's not in my targets or goals to have a store, to be in this retail business, but to have a showroom and to have people over in this showroom, like, where I also work and where I display my work, or where I, like, invite other artists and other creative people to collaborate with. But it could be a showroom, definitely, because currently this is my studio where we're talking at the moment. But in the future, like, I would really like to have, like, a bigger showroom.
Because I'm interested in the creative principles people have. Can you just simply put one principle into some words? Because you might have many, but is there something that's like a mantra that you keep in your head and recall if you need it?
It's not a word, but maybe...
It can be a sentence or something more.
Fantasia.
Okay.
I don't know, like, even if it's not a fantastic story or dystopic story or whatever, like, there should be something, a little bit fantasy element or funny element in it. So it's not a mantra, but this is, I think, what I tend to do in every collection. Like, it repeats itself. So I guess it should be Fantasia.
It's perfect, because I always try to keep it as short as possible. If you can put it in one word, it's like the best you can do. It's perfect. One question I also like to repeat every episode is: was there an event, or is there an upcoming event that you want to recommend that could be interesting for
Week.
Fashion Week.
No, just kidding.
It can be.
Actually,
I mean, can I put a question in between?
Sure.
What's in the fashion world? It's like the local or global. What excites you at the moment, or what are you looking for at the moment? Is there a designer that you keep following, or is there a brand or anything related, even loosely, that you are interested in as a fashion designer?
Probably there is too many stuff, but I have to think about this. Right now, not specifically to fashion, but there is a topic that I started growing interests, and it's not a new topic at all, but combining bioplastics is the answer, and combining bioplastics with fibers. It's super interesting to me at the moment, because I was researching a couple of months ago, like how to create clear surfaces that is not plastic, like that is biodegradable and so on. So I came with, okay, I knew like there was bioplastics, but I didn't know like what's the materials behind, like how do you do that? So I'm quite obsessed with this
bioplastic fantasia.
Maybe I collaborate with material researchers for this in the future. I don't know, but this is something that I'm currently researching on. Apart from the collection, this is just a personal interest, and yeah. And I think I came up with a couple of academicians that works in fashion schools for, I think, textile research and so on. So they develop quite interesting materials with lots of organic materials that could be destroyed in a couple of months in under the soil and so on, or can be dissolved in water. So this is where I'm heading to in my research, but not for collection purposes, just to understand it more.
I got you away from the question. Is there any event that you remember in the design context that was influential to you, at maybe an exhibition or a fashion show that you visited, where that stuck in your head?
Not quite specifically targeted as fashion, but I've been to fiber expo in Italy, and I thought it would be, to be honest, I thought it would be boring. Like, okay, there will be lots of producers there. Like, I went there to find some suppliers and to get to know more about the industry and so on. And it was quite eye-opening, because it's not only for fashion designers, it's also for interior designers and for architects, interior architects, and like it's not about fashion or wearable garments, like knitting. It's everything about knitting. So I don't know how to explain this. It's such a beautiful expo. There's lots of materials to see inside, lots of machines to see inside, and it's in Florence twice a year. So if you're interested, I would recommend to see that.
Can you imagine a cross-disciplinary collaboration in the future? So with a furniture designer, for example?
I would love to. Like, I've been I use my notes app on my iPhone, like to write down like stuff, not for tomorrow, not for next month, but I don't know, some time in my life. Like, I think when the time is right, like I would definitely would love to do something out of fashion, and like collaborate with other creatives to create, to bring other materials together and find something new.
I hope somebody hears that.
Maybe.
And will get in touch with you.
Hopefully.
So thank you very much for your time during this very busy period. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for telling me about your work.
Thank you for having me.
This was the third episode of Vienna Design Hour. Thank you for listening. The next episode will be recorded live during Vienna Design Week on Saturday, September 28th at 11 a.m. with special guests from the design studio Offshore. Make sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts or YouTube so you don't miss any new episodes. Vienna Design Hour is produced by Chin Chin Creative Studios with support from the Vienna Business Agency. A big thank you to Harald Eilacher for post-production and mastering, and to Be Visible for the music.